Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, Maria.
I want to get your take on all of this. And, you have to understand why, some agencies are saying, hold on, why is Elon Musk telling my employees to send in what they're doing? I'll do it myself, like a Cash Patel. I mean, can't Cash Patel handle that?
Yeah, I think those guys are reasonable. But look, Maria, Elon Musk was brought in as a new CEO, if you will, for a failing company. United States being kind of a failing government with all the fraud that he's finding out. And what happens with a new CEO? They restructure. They get rid of people who are not doing their job. And this is what's happening. Is things pushing a little too far? Maybe with the FBI and some of the other agencies. I think their chiefs are going to say that. But it's okay. Look, we lived through Washington in 4 years, and I looked down at the parking lot at CMS, and it was empty for 4 years. Last week, there were a bunch of protesters in there, and that was the most people I'd seen in that parking lot during the entire Biden administration. So, the purpose of what he's doing is the right thing to do for restructuring. Some people are going to push back, and some of that's okay. I think we're going to get to a really good place when all the dust is settled.
And you say that the nonprofit status of the NCAA should be looked at if it will not comply with federal orders to protect women's sports and allow loopholes to include trans athletes. Just last week, there was a very public spat between President Trump and the governor of Maine, Janet Mills. She was at the Governors Association meeting. Trump called out the governor for her directive, which defied federal orders. Watch this.
But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine?
Down here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state. Good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one.
Wow. Congressman, President Trump was not amused.
No, we've lived in bizarro world, Maria, for the last 4 years where people get to change their sex willy-nilly. And we've seen instances time and time where a man has dominated a woman in sports. I mean, even a poor volleyball player, a female volleyball player was injured, had a severe concussion from a man slamming a ball into her. Look, I'm all about it's fine if those folks believe who they are, but they don't have the right. And look, Lord, I've been a physician for 35 years. Just taking certain hormones doesn't change your muscle structure, doesn't change your mitochondrial DNA. It does not change your advantage that men have over women. And for the NCAA now soft tracking it and backtracking it and saying that there's a thing called intersex, which there is, which is an extremely rare disorder, chemical, hormonal, DNA disorder, is using it as a false guard is absolutely true. Point blank, women should not be playing in men's sports any more than women are going and trying to play in the NBA. This is ridiculous. We're living in bizarro world. It's an 80-20 issue, and it needs to stop.
I mean, who's the mayor listening? I mean, who's the governor listening to there in Maine? Well, what does she see that we don't?
I don't know. She's pandering to her far-left constituents. And, as Carville said the other day, if you're going to get stuck on transgenderism, it's a losing issue.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, let me get your take on what's going on in terms of these deals that President Trump is making. Yeah. French President Emmanuel Macron is set to visit with the president today at the White House. The Russia-Ukraine war set to be a major topic, of course, but also tariffs likely. Ukraine's deputy prime minister now says they are in the final stages of negotiations on a minerals deal. They're committed to completing the deal as swiftly as possible after Ukrainian President Zelensky initially balked at signing any minerals deal that's considered repayment for aid that was given to him under the Biden administration. Zelensky told reporters at a press conference in Kyiv, we agreed that with Biden that this was a grant. A grant is not a debt. Zelensky also says that if it is peace for Ukraine and if you really want me to leave my post, I'm ready. He also added that he'd step down if Ukraine was granted NATO membership. I asked the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent about it yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures. Here's what he said.
The first part of this is a partnership between Ukraine and the U.S. that involves strategic minerals, energy, and state-owned enterprises where we set up a partnership, and we are only looking forward. What it does not include is a military guarantee. But what it does include is an implicit guarantee that if the United States of America is heavily invested in the economic future, deal will be signed, and this will give President Trump a lever, and it will be a strong signal to Russian leadership that the U.S. is in a serious partnership with the Ukrainian people.
Congressman, your thoughts on this deal and what it could mean for future deals where America taps into some of the growth of the items that we need, less reliance on the Chinese supply chain. I think it's great.
Yeah. I think it's a brilliant idea. It solves many problems. Yeah, get rid of the Chinese supply chain, the critical minerals that we need.
Right.
But implicitly, just as was said, implicitly denotes security issues without being in NATO. Russia's not going to attack again and go against an American company, American enterprise, while we're fully invested there. Trump is the art of the deal, and how it all works out is how he works his magic. I think, again, it's going to come to a good spot where Ukrainian sovereignty will be spared, its security will be ensured, and American payback, really, for all that it's done for Ukraine will also happen. I think it's a great idea.
What do you want to say about President Trump's first 30 days in office, Congressman? I mean, it was you and I who had a conversation about Joe Biden more than a year ago, where you correctly pointed out that there were serious mental issues underway. You're a doctor. By trade yourself, and you pointed out that there were mental issues here and that, it's unbelievable that the media wouldn't point it out. He's the commander in chief after all. And here you have President Trump coming in the first 30 days and doing so much. Lightning speed, really.
Yeah, it's the difference between a hurricane and a doldrum. I mean, after 6 months, the Biden administration, they hid him for 3.5 years. And I mean, that was really the greatest lie ever told to the American people. Trump has been an absolute hurricane, and it's throwing people off base. But the good thing is, where we're trying to bounce from one place to another, I think we end up like the calm after the storm, where things will resettle. Our federal government will resettle. As Musk pointed out, there are people who haven't been coming to work for 4 years and double dipping. So, it is a hurricane. There's a hell of a lot of chaos going on. But I think at the end, we really will be in a much better place as far as our government. The liberals' heads are on fire. This is what they're doing in every town hall everywhere. They're just screaming. But they voted. Look, the president won the Electoral College and the popular vote. And he's doing what he campaigned on doing, is bringing sanity back after bizarro world for 4 years. I think it's great. I'm not going to agree with everything that's going on these days, but I agree with not the vast majority of it.
All right, Congressman, we'll be watching your work, certainly. Thanks very much. Greg Murphy on Capitol Hill. Thank you, sir.